otherwise known as VOA, and other government-funded news outlets. Instead of journalism, this video has been playing on VOA, asserting that it will be, quote, reliable and authoritative. All full-time employees and contractors with the broadcaster have been placed on leave, and the staff lost their access to headquarters over the weekend. Nancy Cordes joins me now. Nancy, it's great to see you. For the audience who may not be up to speed, what is VOA and these other associated news organizations funded by the federal government?
VOA has been in existence, Major, for 82 years. It started actually as a radio outlet during World War II, reporting behind enemy lines, later reporting behind the Iron Curtain. And its essential function is to cover the U.S. and cover the world for audiences abroad. Americans don't see it here in the U.S., but there are 360 million people who see VOA's reporting on a weekly basis. It's translated into 50 different languages, and it's essentially meant to export American democracy for people living in repressive countries. This might be the only non-propaganda version of the news that they see, telling the real
non-propaganda. Then why is it only broadcast abroad and to other countries? And what are you trying to show them, people of America, through VOA? That sounds kind of fishy. I never agree with any kind of government-funded media anyway. That's propaganda at its core. And for Trump to be the one to stop it, you would think it would be the other way around, the way they've been talking about him. I believe that Donald Trump is a flawed person in a lot of ways. I really do. But I think the Democrats are making him out to be way worse than he really is. I mean, to take an American citizen who is ran an election and won, you know, become our president, and then you don't have a problem you know, speaking to the American public in the terms of him being a treasonous dictator who wants to destroy our country and tear up our Constitution. And, you know, that kind of talk coming from either party. And I thought they were pretty harsh when Obama was in. I'm not a big fan of Obama's or anything, but I didn't think that was fair. I mean, the treatment that he got. But now here we are, getting VOA shut down, and a propaganda media outlet that they transmit the advancement of America abroad. Who wouldn't want to sit in a third world country somewhere and dream about going to America and finding out about programs through ads and who knows what? You know, it would be interesting to see it. I mean, now that she's kind of scratched the surface of what this is, let's go further.
Real story of what America is and what it isn't.
And it's journalistic. It's not state-run media.
No, it is not. It is funded by the federal government, about $270 million a year. But these are real reporters. Some are Americans. Some come from other countries here to the U.S. They report from Ukraine. They report from the war in the Middle East. They report from the White House. And the goal is to be non-biased and to essentially show the rest of the world how you cover the news when you're not being clamped down by.
And this is the government media, and they're talking about it being non-biased. Our mainstream media outlets in this country aren't even non-biased. So how in the hell do they expect a government? I'm just blown away that Trump is the president to shut that down. I would have thought, and that's goes with conditioning and brainwashing and bad information. But you would have thought that the Democrats would be the party who would be like, you know, we don't want no government run. But it is pushing America's agenda out there through the media outlet. An American media outlet abroad must have so much credibility to some of these smaller, weaker nations, which would be almost everybody in the world probably except China. Everyone else would be looking at that and going like, wow, that would be a nice. You don't see a lot of Americans, and there are some who go, but I mean, they don't go to Russia in just by the hundreds of thousands. But a lot of people from Russia come to the United States. A lot of people from all these other Australia, France, all the countries in Africa, if they can. You know, people want to come to the United States. The United States has those media outlets that are probably doing some pretty good advertisements of how we living over here. And it's they wouldn't show the inner city of a ghetto. They wouldn't show our homeless issues. Those people probably have no idea that stuff exists. They think they're gonna come over here and see the Grammys and that the Walk of Fame down there is just glistening in gold and not that people are laying on top of Robert Redford's Star Asleep and shit like that. I mean, that's what's really going on. And I know with it being a government run outlet that they're not reporting real news about America unless it's something really, really wonderful. Like, hey, the Olympics will be in Los Angeles on a particular year. Or, you know, they'll probably talk about huge sporting events like the Super Bowl. And, you know, those are non-biased type things, you know, sporting events and that kind of thing. But when it gets down to the politics and you know, our interpretation of another country, a foreign country, and we have to, you know, put an American spin on it. And that might be very contrary to what that country feels about itself or what its allies feel. So, in the nutshell, I agree with the shutdown of it. $270 million a year. If you are doing what Trump is doing and tightening our belt, then yeah, that kind of stuff got to go. And if they believe that we need all these elements to be as dominant as we are in the world, then we're not going to be the most dominant country in the world because we don't have the resources to be the most dominant country in the world the way we were. We are going to have to be smarter, and we can still be the most dominant country in the world, but we will not be able to be the most dominant country in the world the way we were doing it. Just having every corner covered. We got to have government media spreading a positive message about America. We got to have 750 bases all over the world. We have to have the biggest military as far as weapons. And not necessarily the biggest, because Russia has more nuclear, a bigger nuclear arsenal than we do, but they don't want to go to war with us. They don't want to go to war with us. Our budget, if Russia and the United States, and Russia has to think about its country. They're probably not very better off than we are as far as being in debt and hanging on by a thread. And everybody not even being aware that we're paying $1 trillion a year in just interest on the national debt of $37 trillion. That's more money than we pay for the military budget. $1 trillion per year in just interest. So that does not bring that. So if you pay $2 trillion, $1 trillion goes to the debt, and the other trillion goes to interest. That's terrible. We're $1 trillion. It's embarrassing. And the Democrats, in my opinion, are just going on down the road as if nothing's happening. They don't want to interrupt no programs. Everything's got to go the way it's been going. There are programs that have been created in this country that people need to survive. And the Democrats are responsible for creating the bulk of those programs instead of creating some type of opportunities where people can make it in the private sector and don't have to rely so heavily on the government. And then our taxes can take care of a lot of other stuff as opposed to wars and putting us in debt. You do not go to war unnecessarily and put it on a credit card and put it on your grandchildren to pay or worry about later. For this budget in this country to have been balanced as recently as, 2099, 2000, right when Clinton was getting out of office. He's the last to have done it, and it's embarrassing. It's totally embarrassing. And Trump is in here shutting down all kind of stuff. And people are kicking about it just because he's doing it. But when you really think about it, what if, I don't know, 2.5 years into Biden's term, he'd gotten up there and given a compelling speech as to why he thinks the government paid for media should be shut down. I don't think everybody be kicking so hard. They're kicking because we have to understand that we got to support the things that are good for us, and we got to reject the things that are bad for us. No matter who the bad things are coming from and who the good things are coming from. If it's not working for you, you have to reject it.
By an authoritarian regime.
You talked to Michael Abramowitz, who is the director of VOA, about some of these issues. Let's listen.
Right now, VOA is shuttered. And if it's off the air for weeks and weeks and weeks, I really fail to see how it will be reconstituted, and it could be a major, really self-inflicted blow to the national security interests.
And he's basically saying that if it is just off the air for a while, maybe Trump will bring it back online, but with his interpretation of America's message that we want transmitted abroad. As the president of the United States, that makes sense. Why would you want to be sitting in the White House and that same message going out that was going out when Biden was in office? I wouldn't want that. I'd be like, nah, shut that shit down. He may be shutting it down. It's or the way this guy sounds, maybe for some weeks or a few months until they get their telecommunications folks in place and transmit it out the way they want it with the new message. But get Trump's team involved, because who in the hell would want to take over and the guy you just replaced, his message is still being broadcast around the world. He was a supporter of Ukraine. He was giving Ukraine missiles and weapons and landmines over there. So nah. You want that shut down. You don't want that message going to any part of the world. You don't want the old NATO message going out if you feel different about NATO, like this president does. He feels different about our place if we have a place in NATO going forward. Donald Trump is about to change some things. And as a black man in America, I'm excited. We need some change. We need some things to go differently. We need to feel that some people are going to come to us, and they will be soon. And we got to stand up like men and say no. We never say no. And if we say no, and they know we mean it, then maybe when they come back, they won't just ask. They'll bring something so that we can barter, so we can work it out, so we can make a deal. Because that's what we need to be into, deal making, no more favors. No more because we think you're going to protect us better than they will. No more of that.
United States.
Why is that?
Because it's an incredibly important tool for reaching, for basic combating Chinese, Russian, Iranian disinformation, for telling the truth to people living under tyranny. If America pulls off the playing field and cedes it to our adversaries, then they're going to be telling the narratives that people around the world are going to be hearing.
So why don't they call it what it is? That doesn't sound like a media outlet. That sounds like a propaganda outlet. And if that's what they do, that's what they do. If the United States needs to spend $270 million a year, which is probably some pretty good salaries for some of those reporters, the majority of them foreign, they bring them over here. They're allies of the Americans, the South Koreans and the folks over in some of the European countries, and they report in the most positive way from a place of credibility because they're speaking the language and they're representing the culture of the people that they're talking to. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Sound like kind of like what they do to black people? The United States wants to be everywhere at all times, and they need people of various racial and ethnic makeups in order to get their messages out there, because they can't do it. They can't relate. They can't participate and be believable enough for people to want to be a part of that. They have to use puppets. They have to send their agents out. And it's very unfortunate that the people who are willing to do this are not helping their people by doing this stuff. Look at us as an example, as the closest example that I can cite. we're as close to white people as you can be physically, but look how far away we are from them economically. They don't want us close to them economically, so why do they want us so close to them physically? I don't understand it. I've always wondered. But anyway, I think that the people around the world and around the United States should not be agents against their own people just to advance the United States. The United States is such of a wonderful country. We shouldn't have to do that kind of stuff. We should not have to persuade and manipulate and trick people. And I just have to say on this one, I got to side with Trump. Yeah, I'd shut down agencies like that. And this gentleman also is biased because he is a former director. And without that place, he has no job, you know. But he can get a job in the private sector. He's in journalism. Or is he? That's what I'm saying. How many of these journalists would really be able to go to a real, mainstream media group and get a job? Are they really good reporters? Because all you got to do is be able to read the writer's work and portray it in a very, sincere fashion and with some fucking sense of intelligence, and you can be a pretty good news reporter. Whether you believe or don't believe what you're reporting, those people will be okay. I mean, there's many other jobs that they can do, but $270 million a year, and everybody keeps talking about it like it isn't that much money, because when you look at it, it really isn't that much money. But when you add up all these 270 millions and 160 millions and 400 billions and 800 billion over there, it adds up to a lot of money, and it really is money we don't have. And if anybody wants to say we do have it, then why do we have $37 trillion in debt? We should be able to pay off the debt, and then we do have it. But we don't have it right now. And we need to act like we don't have it so we don't lose our country, because that could happen.
And that can't be good for America.
They're going to be hearing an anti-American message.
They're going to be hearing an anti-American narrative, and we need to fight that.
He said we need to fight that. I mean, they openly think we stupid. They just tell you point blank what is going on, and then expect you to in the next breath to tell you it's an unbiased, middle of the road message, and it's just out there to just put America in the best light to the world. That's dangerous, and it's weird that Trump would curtail that, but I don't think he is permanently. I kind of, in the beginning of this interview, that gentleman kind of let on if it's down for a few weeks. He don't sound too happy about what could be coming, because they may open right back up, but with a different message and with a different damn director too. Maybe that's the biggest problem. He might not be the director or an employee over there anymore. And as a director in any sector, I totally see directors and managers and anything above just average workers, not even a complaint. You got to go. Get out. We're going in another direction, and you ain't it. That Biden or Trump before him or Obama before him picked this guy, or somebody be longer than that. Who knows? But I'll tell you one thing. He is not going to think and do things that are in the best interest of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has a way better sense of that now. And it's very unfortunate that other Republican presidents have just tolerated it, have just tolerated the majority of the country just swinging to the left, just being basically a democratic society. Nobody ever kicked and made such of a big deal about the imbalance in the Supreme Court. Because it's such of a big deal, I don't know. It should be a more neutral, for sure. And I think in the idea of the whole court, it's supposed to be, but it isn't. It's nowhere close, but it really should be. If that court was neutral, man, what a wonderful country this could be. But they're biased. Clarence Thomas shouldn't even be on there. I mean, and not because of that Anita Hill stuff, but just because he is really not that type of material. That man's I don't know why his heart is in the place that it's in. I don't know why he feels the way he does, and openly he's open with it. It's a horrible thing to see, and he's getting older. I remember, goddamn, back in '92 he was in his maybe mid to late 40s. So a lot of time has passed. He's getting up there. But these people get these positions and they sit on them forever. Let go. Get out of there. Let somebody in their mid 40s to early 50s take over. It's just a tradition to stay because it's a game. And if you relinquish your spot with the wrong president in office, like the Democrats have done, that they just been getting outmaneuvered on every front. Trump's been kicking their ass. It's really embarrassing to see one president so forceful and strong and sure of himself, even when he's wrong, and the other president kind of doing what he do and the way he want to do it, but making us believe that it's all in the name of the most wonderful things in the world, while we were sliding closer and closer to World War III. And none of that stuff toward the end of his presidency would he do prior to the election, which just speaks volumes to his character. If you really believe that there is urgency in this shit and you got to get Ukraine those missiles, you don't have to wait until Kamala loses the election or wins the election or the election happens. You can do that shit because you know you're doing the right. That's how I know Biden knew he wasn't doing the right thing. If he knew he was doing the right thing and had done that, that might have strengthened Kamala's position. But he knew he wasn't doing the right thing, so he had to hide and wait until he did so much stuff after the election that just let me know who he really is more than I already did. It's pretty terrible.
Michael Abramowitz's first interview. Well done, Nancy. I want to play some more of that conversation. Let's listen.
I think that VOA can help the president achieve his agenda, and I hope he'll give it a chance to do that. I'm not going to say that everyone at VOA is not perfect, but I really believe that at VOA, the journalists, by and large, if they have a bias, they hate totalitarianism, they hate tyranny, they hate authoritarianism. They are people who have fought bravely for freedom and for a free press in their own countries, and now they want to do it here in the United States.
Nancy, in the 45 seconds I have remaining with you, which I know is not justice enough, what is this heading? What does Michael fear?
It's a great question. We don't know what the future of VOA will be. The Trump administration has argued that VOA has been too critical of the commander-in-chief. So,
well, there it is. You can't be talking shit about him, and he has the power to shut you down. Not like that. You cannot be doing it, which means that you are not a free entity of the media. You're not. It ain't in you because you can be shuttered. Meaning you have to be careful what you say. If you can't report openly and honestly, and what would have you guys been saying about Trump that was negative? Was it during the election? Was it before the election? During the campaign season? What would you guys have been saying? Because you remember, you guys don't report in the United States. You report abroad. So what would you have been reporting abroad that would have been unfavorable to a candidate? Meaning you guys are biased. You would have been leaning Democrat, talking about negatively about the Donald Trump candidate. And if I was him, I would do the same. How in the hell is that fair? You should be worried about your job as pushing that propaganda out for the country of the United States of America, not for the candidate Joe Biden. And that's biased. And yeah, I'd have shut you down too for that same reason.
they have shuttered it for now. But you played that video where it says they will be coming back in some form. They will represent America. We just don't know what form that will take. So all these employees are really in limbo right now.
Nancy Cordes, great interview.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, I tell you what, we know this. Donald Trump ain't with the bullshit. And if he could shut down private media, he would too if you talk bad about him. I mean, I guess the man is into his feelings when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I think most of us are. Just most of us aren't in a position to do much about shit like that. To be in a position to shut down whole agencies who have crossed you or done that. You remember back when he was in 2017 and he won, and there was this big old thing going on about his taxes, and somebody in the IRS was leaking portions of his tax documents that were supposed to be not released. Well, I got a feel back then for he didn't like that shit, but he didn't really know how to respond. He fought back, but he didn't know how to respond. Right now, and also because he has a super majority, which helps a lot. But he is really moving this along, and to slow down or get in the way or whatever people are trying to do. Some of this stuff is going to get out, and it's going to be either be really, really good or it's going to be really, really bad. I do not think this country is so fickle that we will be as divided on the result. It's going to be, we're going to all say this shit is fucked up, or we're going to all be on the other side and saying, hey, this ain't that bad. We kind of like having according to his goals and his promises. If any a little bit of this stuff starts coming true, you guys, it's not going to look good for the Democrats. And the Democrats are going to look like they went way off the charts with this. And it's going to be much to do about nothing. And I kind of believe that's what it's going to end up as. We go through recessions. We have gone through recessions. And anybody who is upset and mad and wants us to always be not in a recession, it's impossible. When you are $37 trillion in debt, 37, I'm telling you, until I was in my mid 20s, maybe late 20s, I didn't even know what a recession was. People would say we're in a recession, and I'd be reading the newspaper, oh, we're still in that recession, because my whole life was a recession. Every time I went and looked for a job, it felt just like this a time before. And I'd find out once I got into the job place by hearing people talk and reading newspapers in the morning. And when the internet was starting, back then we just would send up smoke signals. But I was thinking, man, a recession. And the dollars, and you see the Dow and the stock market dropping and businesses going out. And I was like, it's still just as hard for me to find a job. It wasn't any better or any worse. I mean, I felt that way. I went into the military for that reason. I didn't want to, I was young, and I figured I'll go in the military rather than get out here and try to battle for a job with no skills. I'll go in there and get some skills, and but I may have mixed feelings about that as well. But one thing I can say is this. We have no reason as a country to be supporting propaganda that may or may not be true with our tax dollars abroad like that, especially in the countries in Africa, because they go in there, especially these European countries that aren't even strong, France, no raggedy ass, and they go in Africa and just gut the place and refuse to get out, and then make them, when they have to release them and can't hold them as slaves no more, make them pay for their freedom. And the countries like that who just won't take their foot off the African folks' necks, and who actually still have territories in Africa, that's the kind of stuff the United States should be fighting. The United States should be over in NATO telling them countries, I know you'll be broke without keeping you, but you're going to have to find another way to exist. And it cannot be by oppressing these people who would be among the richest in the world if everybody would take their hand out their pocket. That's what we need to be doing as America, really helping countries with our voice and with our military backing, instead of just going along because those are our friends and those aren't. It's okay for these people to be getting jacked for all the resources in their land. And I say it ain't. It ain't right. But Voices of America, goodbye and good riddance. This dude who was whining about it was the former director. I totally understand it, and with the good argument too as well, because he sees it that way, and that's the problem. We need to get out of the Democratic way of thinking, because we have too much homelessness, we have a high crime rate, we have black people locked up all over the place. We got unemployment and even the employment that we have, these distribution centers and working there as a stock puller, and then you get these soft tissue injuries, and they want to say you ain't really hurt, but you are. I mean, come on. That's not what it's all about, or should be. Don't bring back all these factories and kill us. Don't expose us to the dangers of these industrial. We in this year and in this age have to grow as a country, and if we can manage that growth in an appropriate way and not take us back to the 1930s and 40s and 50s and up to the 60s when people were seeking jobs in warehouses and manufacturing plants and those type of things. Those jobs will always exist, but that should not be the direction that the United States is going in. We need to be going in another direction. What is really going on? I don't know. But I appreciate the support, folks. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.